So the next speaker is Satoko Shirai from Tokyo University of Foreign Studies with a talk entitled Prosody of Topic and Focus in nDrapa.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. And today I'd like to introduce the prosodic features in nDrapa at the post-lexical level. The metro dialect of the nDrapa language, a language of the Changic group in broader sense, has a tone system, but the pitch values seem variable or unstable. This study claims that such variability comes from post-lexical prosody. In other words, post-lexical prosody may override lexical tones. The information structure, including both topic and focus, or one of them, may trigger the pitch alternation. First, please listen to the following examples, focusing on the pitch of the word gege, a Tibetan loanword, which means teacher. In the first example, gege has a low rising pattern. Can you hear the sound?
ngara jowu gigi kostu sheji.
And in the second example, gege shows high pitch. Can you hear it?
Gigi rinchida shechumuna.
In example 3, it has low falling pattern. That is, the first syllable gege is low and slightly rising ge, and the second syllable is lower than the first syllable.
Somoni gigi wazure.
Gege. In the main part of this presentation, I will examine such examples. Let me briefly introduce the target language. The nDrapa language is spoken in areas along the Shenhui River, Gansu Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture of Sichuan Province of China. According to the recent studies, there are about 10,000 speakers. This study is focusing on the metro dialect and the northmost variety of this language. And now I introduce basic facts of tones of this language variety. And the tone-bearing unit is phonological words. That is, and I regard it as the word tone. And in a multisyllabic word, first two syllables have a distinctive pitch, and the rest syllables are atonal with middle or rather low pitch. At the word level, there are three distinctive tones. Tone 1, high level, tone 2, high falling, and tone 3, low rising. However, tone 2 is relatively rare in single words. And in text, some phonological words may have the fourth tone, tone 4, low falling. And these are examples of the nDrapa tones. There are sound files of my main informant, but I must apologize that I collected these sounds from old and different recordings, so the pitch value is more unstable. First, high level.
Yo.
Disyllabic.
Vari.
Trisyllabic.
Nyedede.
And high falling.
No.
Disyllabic word.
Chotu.
Trisyllabic word.
Les.
And tone 3, low rising.
Lu.
Disyllabic.
Nana.
And trisyllabic.
Jagala.
And finally, the low falling pattern is found in, for example, jamo, but this is not found in single morpheme words. And next, I introduce a topic and focus in metro nDrapa language. According to Noda, there are three patterns of topic marking strategy from a contrastive linguistic perspective. And metro nDrapa has all these three patterns: morphological, syntactic, and phonological. First, morphologically, nDrapa has a topic marking particle, ne. This is a Tibetan loanword, Tibetan ni. And syntactically, the topic can be placed at the sentence initial position. And third, phonologically, a tone of the topic may alternate. Moreover, this study also claims that nDrapa has a kind of prosodic accent or focus prosody. There are two strategies of topic marking other than the prosody. Both are productive in Metron nDrapa. Morphologically, for example, Noramuni. As for your brother, Miwo Yishi Chu Dezere. The woman kidnapped last night, the mother says. And syntactically, the focus is the topic can be simply put at the first position of the sentence. Koronce nga denrugato. As for this dish, I will sample it. And please note that the basic constant order is SOV, but in this sentence, the object placed at the initial position as a topic. And previous studies mentioned that the tones in nDrapa are not stable. Huang Bufang mentions that in a few monosyllabic words, the low rising tone is not stable and can be pronounced as low falling. Suzuki mentions that in the text, the above mentioned basic pitch distinction does not always appear clearly for every word. And Gon Chun-Hu mentions that although the tone alternation does not show strict rules, some general tendencies can be seen. And the nDrapa tones are not fully fixed. So let us examine the examples of pitch alternations in the text. And again, I will discuss on the first three examples of gege. Please listen again.
nga ngara do gigi kosto sheji
Low rising gege. And second example,
gigi rinchida shechumuna
high tone, gege or gege. In number 3,
sono ni gigi wazure
low falling, gege. And these are pitch contour lines drawn with plot for the part of gege in each example. We can see that they have different pitch patterns in the first example, second example, third example. Focusing on the vowel parts, and gege in the first example has a low rising pattern, gege. In the second syllable, the first syllable is extra high, probably because it is at the utterance initial position. And the second syllable is also high enough and level. So I regard this as a high level pattern. In the third example, the pitch is low, and the second syllable is lower than the end of the first syllable. I term this low falling. Now we should examine what makes them different. The second example seems relatively easy to say that because gege is at the sentence initial position where the topic is often placed. So it is topic. It can be said. We can say it is topic. And in the third example, tomorrow the teacher will come. In this case, gege may be focused on because when I collected this example, I was asking two sentences together. Tomorrow the teacher will come, and yesterday father came. So I hypothesize that the topic may have the high level pitch as in 2, and the focus may have the falling pitch as in example 3. And we can say that in the first example, gege shows a plain lexical pattern. Since this is not at the topic position, topic is nga, and not the first nor the focus position. In this case, gyo, friend, shows a focus-like pitch pattern falling. So these are the working hypotheses. In the rest part of this presentation, I will examine these hypotheses with other examples. And the morpheme for the first person shows several pitch patterns. When it is the subject and the sentence initial position, it always pronounced with high level pitch. However, in other positions, it often have the low tone. And this is again the first example. And now please focus on the first and second phonological words.
Nga ngara jowo gigi gosto sheji.
The figure shows the pitch contour line of the first part of this sentence. The vowel part of the first nga is level, this part, but the second phonological word ngara is low rising. This supports the hypothesis that topic tends to have the high level pitch. Moreover, the first person morpheme may have tone 4 low falling when it is emphasized. Please compare next two examples.
Ngoro ngau goto.
Ngau. And number 7.
No ngau goto.
Ngau in 7. Morphologically, the phonological words ngau in both sentences are completely same. However, its pitch pattern is low falling in example 6, ngau, and low rising in example 7, ngau. Example 6 is in the context which denies the previous sentence, so it seems it seems natural that this sentence has a focus. Thus, these examples also suggest that focus may have the falling pitch pattern. There are more examples that support the hypothesis. These are examples from a folktale. In example 8, the referential personal pronoun dura has the low rising tone. Duragasa. And in example 9, dura is pronounced with a high level pitch. In this case, it is put at the sentence initial position, the typical position of the topic. Again. So, topic is high level again. These are more examples from another folktale which shows the falling tone marks the focus. In example 10, suk, a string-shaped amulet is pronounced with a high-level pitch, and yatoja here, under the armpit, is with a high falling pitch. Please listen. Is clear? And example 11 was sorry. In 10, yatoja is high falling, but this is usually pronounced with high level tone, as in 12, yatoja. In this sentence, suka is a generally found amulet in Tibetosphere, but tying it under the armpit is a special situation. So naturally, the narrator focuses on the armpit here, yatoja. Example 11 has uttered later in the same folktale. Here, suka is pronounced with a high falling pitch. It is not. Listen. It is natural to regard that the narrator focuses on it here because it is the key item in this context to avoid the ghosts harming her. Okay, so these examples also support the hypothesis that the focus may have a falling pitch pattern. And
Should I choose about 5 minutes?
Okay, thank you. And verbs in the imperative mood generally have the falling tone. Please refer to examples 6 and 7 again, focusing on the verb good.
Doji thi ngau goto moji de. ngoro ngau koto.
Mm.
Do jiti ngau koto moji de. Ngoro ngau koto. No ngau koto.
In the two sentences of example 6, it has a low rising tone, but in example 7, it is imperative and has a low falling tone.
No ngau koto.
So in the imperative sentence, the verb may be emphasized. So this phenomena may related with the focus marking function. And post-lexical falling pitch is also found when one call another person. For example, Nogia. Nogia is a person name, and Asia means aunt, which generally have the low rising pitch. However, when the speaker calls a person loudly, they turn to have the high falling pitch as Nogia or Asia. This is similar to the vocative intonation in Kagoshima and Koshikijima Japanese, introduced by Kubozono. And okay, and post lexical. So sorry, this is just an example. Extra examples, but in Java, the border of phonological words may also vary in accordance with the speaker's attitude. 13 A and B were collected in the elicitation at the same time. 13A,
Nga chu setejo.
13B.
Nga chu setejo.
When I ask the informant without recording, she usually say as A, tejo, se tejo, where the verb stem and the auxiliary form form a phonological word together. However, once we start recording, she mostly says as B, that is separates the verb stem, se tejo, and the auxiliary and maybe she says so unconsciously. These examples also suggest the flexibility of the nDrapa tone pattern, tone system.
There are about 3 minutes left, okay?
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. And now I must introduce exceptions. The topic does not always have the high level pitch, as seen in 14. Mene tosho tia, sorry. The mother was about to die. Mene is marked as a topic with which the particle ni, but has the lexical low rising tone. We conclude that the topics just tend to have a high level tone. The high level pitch with the topic is optional, and the primary topic marking devices are the word order and the particle ni. There are more exceptions in example 15 again, Zantrani and Zabutirani. These phrases have topic marker but keeps a low rising tone. Moreover, tani, to mogimuro tani, does not seem to have a focus but has the high falling pitch. This means that the falling tone may be found without focus. This is very natural, but need to be confirmed. So I briefly summarize the discussion. Topic may override the lexical tones at a high level pitch. And there are exceptions. The primary topic marking devices are the word order and the particle ni. Focus may override the lexical tones as the falling pitch. So far, tone alternation into the falling pitch is the only explicit way of focus marking. And in addition, it may seem unusual that the post-lexical prosody can override the lexical pitch pattern. But however, such examples are found in some pitch accentual or tonal languages such as Fukuoka, Kagoshima, Koshikijima dialects of Japanese and South Kyosan Korean. So anyway, we need to clear out the lexical tone and the post-lexical pitch in such languages, including nDrapa. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's a very interesting talk on a very important topic, I think. I have been confused by intonation obliterating tonal patterns in languages I work on. But are there questions? I don't see anything in the chat. Am I right about that? Oh, Jesse Gates has a question. Jesse, do you want to just
Sure.
unmute yourself? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, David. And thank you very much, Satoko. Good to see you. And wonderful presentation, very clear and very informative. I do have a question about how you define focus. It's one of those nebulous terms. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you define focus. And then also, I noticed on page 20, there was a double consonant for the verb, I believe, and you don't have double consonants in Java, right? Or is that just a like for for hit?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Thank you for your question. For the focus, it is a kind of emphasizing and or differentiation. If the speaker needs to emphasize or need to tell the content very strongly, it may be focused, but focus is not necessarily obligatory part of the sentence. So the speaker can use this pitch pattern if she needs to emphasize or focus on one word. I think so. And in recent, but maybe you can hear the difference between good in 6 and good in the second syllable.
どっち違うことマジで
And
おるん合うこと
I think this is a remnant of some third person marker. I think so, but yeah, I need to clarify it. Thank you.
So we have time for additional questions.
Can I ask one? Yeah.
Sure.
Shirai-san, that was a lovely talk. Could you tell me whether you have the impression that the tonal system in nDrapa is of relatively recent origin, and or are the lexical tones so stable in isolation that it looks like the tone system is very well established already?
Maybe it is. How can I say? It is not matured or not so developed tone system. Maybe, and maybe Professor Gong studied on the southern dialect group also says maybe Proto-Changi did not have tone system, and each language rather recently developed the tone system rather recently. So Java is also.
In fact, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we certainly have time for at least a question or two more. Anybody? Checking the chat, I don't see any questions there.
Are there any other language varieties have such a post-lexal prosody? I'm very curious about that.
So the languages that I work with, it's generally a kind of non-final intonation, which obliterates tone. So you know, when it's in a sequence of chained clauses, for instance, maybe at the end of the first and the second and the third, but not at the fourth, where you have a final kind of intonation. But I haven't thought about, at least not carefully, about the effects of focus and topicalization and so forth that they do with various particles in combination with dislocations. So, but I'll be listening more carefully. Anybody else have thoughts or questions?
David, what is this language? Your language?
Just Kuki-Chin languages in general, but primarily Kumi is the language where I've run into, lack of clarity as to the tones due to intonational characteristics of clauses. So.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi,
Randy.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to follow up on what you were saying, that I think actually this is not an uncommon kind of thing that you have this kind of override of things. First of all, what we think of as the kind of ideal tone pitches and contours is a abstraction. And if you look at real natural data, the tones are really all over the place. But there is some consistency in pitch overriding lexical tone in Chinese and in, I mean, Zhao Yanren's called it ripples on waves, but it's actually, I've heard many examples of things where the tone is just completely absorbed into the intonation. And then I was just reading a dissertation on an E variety, and she was also saying that in questions, there's a falling, in certain kinds of question structures, there's a falling pitch overall, an falling intonation. And if the tone of the word is not falling, then it becomes falling. Of course, if it is already a falling tone, then it doesn't change. But certainly this is a common phenomenon, this overriding of so-called lexical pitch, which is really a variable kind of thing. It's when you look at the individual realizations of tones, they're really kind of all over the place.
Would you guys say that this is less so for significantly complex tonal systems? Just like people say that German, for example, makes less use of mood intonation because it has up to 75% more modal particles than, say, French?
That could be the case, because you could also link it to say something like singing. So say, for example, in Mandarin, pitch height is not really so important to begin with in the first place. It doesn't really distinguish height, it's more contour. And when you sing, you don't really care about tones at all. Whereas in Cantonese, where pitch height, there are 3 pitch heights that are very important. When you write a song in Cantonese, you actually pay attention to the pitch height of the word when writing the song. In other words, matching the pitch height of the song to the word. So it may differ between languages in terms of how sensitive they are to this, yeah.
Excuse me, Professor Lapola, is there any aerial tendency of such overwriting the tone? Because I don't think Northern Beijing Mandarin do not have such overwriting of tones, and Tokyo Japanese, Standard Japanese do not overwrite the accent pattern
in Beijing, you don't find it really talked about much in the literature, but when I lived in Beijing, I heard this all the time. I remember walking past the sports complex at Peking University where I was, and in the 1980s, and somebody saying pao, like pao with a high level tone instead of pao, kind of thing. And there are quite a lot of examples like that. If you really pay attention to the way people speak, there's a lot of this kind of thing that happens, and like fourth tone, which is normally a high falling tone, in other contexts can be pretty leveled out, depending because of the intonation contour.
Thank you.
No problem.
I remember Y.R. Jones saying once that the fourth tone, when pronounced very emphatically, would have a little twist at the end, so "buchu," but no one has confirmed that since I heard him say that in class.
Yeah, I don't know that. "Buchu," yeah. Maybe, but he was recording basically the 1940s or even earlier, so things may have changed a bit.
So we've reached the top of the hour, at least where I am. Maybe you've reached the bottom of the hour where you are.
It's bloody
But
7 a.m. here.
we should thank our final speaker one more time. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Satoko.
And there is a special session in 15 minutes in room 1 on standards for interlinear gloss texts in related languages. So hopefully everybody will join us there for all that fun. Okay, thanks very much.